Back to my channel. This is Darian with Darian the Dev, and I'm excited. This is the first episode, I guess you guys can call it, of another series. So we have the Life After Bootcamp series and the live streams, and now we're going to be doing this remote developer bootcamp. Myself and two other good developer friends of mine, we all are working remotely together on this curriculum that we put together to really help us with just career progression and just getting better at the computer science stuff that we don't already get to do on like a daily basis, or that we might not understand or know about. So we have this curriculum that we put together, and we have our own little structure where we've broken down Monday through Sunday or Monday through Saturday what we're going to be working on, and everybody's going to have their own notes, their own resources. And throughout the week, we're going to be using some similar resources like textbooks and things like that, and certain links that we share with each other to learn something. Sorry guys, I had to text back one of the people who's about to hop on. And basically, Monday through Saturday, we have already planned out the topics that we're going to cover on all those days, like what we're studying. And that is what we're all separately working on, using our own resources. Like I said, we use some of the same textbooks, some of the same links or courses that we might share with each other, but we're studying our own way, and we have our own notes and our own takeaways, our own projects, things like that. And then we're going to come together every weekend in 2020 on these live streams to share with you guys, recap our week, what we learned, and we're going to share it right here. So basically, this is going to be very exploratory. This first episode, I have to figure out how to share my screen with you guys, and we have to kind of figure out how the workflow is going to go. So forgive me in advance for any like technical issues. It's going to be our first time trying to add 3 people on Skype to a live stream as well. So we got a couple little things to work out, but once we get it going, once we get that worked out, we're gonna be good. I think there's a lot of valuable content that's gonna come out of here. I know I learned a lot this week, and this week will only cover from Wednesday through today. So this would be kind of a shorter week, a little hybrid week. Like I said, it's our first time, all of us kind of doing this. So it's 1 o'clock. I'm gonna call everyone in right now, and we will go ahead and we'll get started. So let's see, I'm calling them on Skype. See who we got here.
What up, dude?
Is this Justin?
Yep.
What's going on, bro? Do you have your camera turned on?
Probably not. Hold on 1 second.
Alright, so let's see. Let's try to...
There we go. I had to use it in the browser. They disabled my they disabled my desktop version, so I had to hop over in the browser.
For which computer? Wait, who disabled?
Oh, you know who?
Oh, okay, got you. Where? All right, so yeah, let's try to get your camera up, and then I'm texting La.
It's up on my test or whatever, but I don't know. It's the audio. Yeah, it's good.
All right, so
the camera's. Oh wait a minute. Oh, there we go. I'm just done.
So now you have it on? Okay, cool. All right, so we got Justin.
Yeah.
And I just need to get La in. So let me also...
You just going live right away?
Yeah, we're live right now.
Oh, not right. Nice.
So yes, I think I want to add La to the call. This. So yeah,
I know
I'm trying to see how we work in 3 people. Hopefully it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I got my notes. I got some notes from the stuff that I've been doing. I'm pretty much good to talk about whatever. My thoughts are a little scrambled right now just due to the studies themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me see. Where is... Let's see.
Cool. There we go. Does she know she gotta go on Skype?
Oh yeah, she said she's having login difficulties.
I think that happened to me last time because when I created my account, like Microsoft hadn't purchased Skype yet, so the login was like they appended some _1 or something like that to my username without me knowing about it. So maybe same thing.
Yeah, all right. So I told her that she's having login trouble, so I'm just gonna let her do her thing, and then we'll come back to her. We can just get started. I need to actually figure out how to share my screen. So that's the next thing right now with this software anyway. So we're live over here.
You need me to do anything?
Nope, you're good. I just need to. All right, cool. So all right. So let me see. Look at my current screen. Is that right now? Alright, sorry y'all. So the issue here is just trying to share my screen right now. Show scenes window, unlock current scenes. New scene. Unlock current, duplicate current scene. Source, video, camera. Select all cameras. Mic, recording. Video monitor.
Different than what you did last time?
I don't think I shared my screen. That's the only thing. Overlays. Yep, here we go. Share screen. Okay, cool. So maybe I need to switch to default window. Yeah, so this would be through the YouTube live stream where you would be seeing what we're actually seeing right now. So I know I probably look like I'm still on Skype. It's probably just me looking at you. But yeah, are you able to crack open another browser and just double check if we're?
Yeah, I got you. There's definitely.
Oh no, yeah, we're good. I can see it. Okay, so sorry y'all for anybody who's watching. I'm really sorry about the technical difficulties right now. I told y'all I had to work a couple things out. It's my first time doing the live stream this way. We're gonna be trying to add a third person here pretty soon onto the stream as well. So just trying to work out a couple kinks. Appreciate y'all for bearing with us. We promise there's a lot of valuable content coming in this stream. Just had to work out a couple of things. So let's see. Alright, so what I want to go over here with you guys is just a basic layout of our week, like how we have the week structured. We're using Asana to help kind of just lay out tasks, what goes into which day. And we have our curriculum, which we we're still building that. So I don't really want to share that with you guys just yet because it's still in progress. We're still adding things to it, tweaking it, and then also I think the three of us wanted to make sure that we see the type of progress and outcomes that we want out of this curriculum before we put it together, package it up, and share it with you guys. But this is a breakdown of how we're kind of planning the week right now. So if you guys haven't seen the previous videos, so we've got Mondays. We're doing Mondays and Tuesdays are basically the same. We're doing languages and data structure algorithm type stuff. So again, whatever resources that we individually want to use, whatever languages we individually want to use, is kind of free range. Wednesday through Friday is all like lower level CS type stuff. So it's all networking, operating systems, databases, and then also there's a DevOps Bootcamp course which I dropped in a previous video for you guys to check out. But it's a free bootcamp put on by Oregon State University, which is really awesome. It goes over pretty much everything A through Z that you could ever need to know about DevOps, and it's great for anybody who wants to learn like AWS or Azure, and or just be like a SRE, site reliability engineer, a DevOps or release engineer. So yeah, so it's a really great resource, and that's a whole separate skill from software development that all three of us wanted to get better at. So we dedicated Wednesday through Fridays to stuff kind of in that world, in that nature. And then Saturdays we're gonna be doing the streams. Saturdays or Sundays, basically just weekends throughout 2020, we'll be doing these streams right here where we link up and share our notes with you guys from all of our takeaways over the course of the week, and then we'll be sharing them with you guys, and we'll make them accessible somehow. We'll figure out how to package and share the knowledge. But so yeah, Justin, you still with me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, so let me see if I can still see you. Yep, you're right here. All right, cool. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just dive into my takeaway. So we're starting here from Wednesday. We started this on January 1st. So it was a Wednesday, and I started on one of our networking books, and I started reading that. So I have some notes on that, and then I also kind of ran off with some blogs and things to help support some of the stuff I was reading in the book. And then I've got some DevOps stuff as well, but I'll talk about my coding and language stuff, my actual project-based stuff I did this week. So let's start with the networking stuff. So these are some of my notes right here. So when I was going over networks, I was reading the textbook. I forgot what it's called. I think it's just called Computer Networks, honestly. And I was reading about how networks communicate, like how they're set up, because I don't have like networks and servers is one of my biggest like weaknesses, and so one of my focuses this year is to get a lot better at that. And so I was reading about how networks communicate, and they communicate by exchanging like packets of information. Well, they're called network packets, but they're just packets of information. And it's funny, you'll start to notice how like a lot of these words kind of like overlap in different things when you're talking about coding or APIs, like all this different request-based stuff, and all that stuff is surrounding like exchanging information. So it was just interesting to see that certain things just are another term for data. So packet can be thought of as like information or just data. So it's a formatted unit of data that's carried by a packet switched network. So obviously it's a type of network. And it consists of the information in the user data, aka payload. So I've heard the term payload thrown around like a ton, and I never really knew what that was referring to. But so it's just referring to the content of the packet. So let's see. So what does the packet include? What is this payload consist of? So it's got a source and a destination, so like where it's coming from, the computer that it's coming from, and the computer that it's meant for within the network address, and then stuff like error detection codes, sequencing information, which I'm not sure exactly what sequencing information is, but these three would make sense, right? So like when we're talking about so we're talking about communication in general, we have to know who the what's it called, like there's the recipient and the responder, or the recipient and the, like, not in computer science, but just in basic communication. You have like the transmitter and the recipient or something like that. So there's always someone speaking, the communications coming from somewhere and going to somewhere else. So like source and destination, kind of like that made sense that it would have to know that if you're on a network. So I thought that was interesting. And then knowing the address, so like what specific network are we on, which so that I thought that was interesting. And then error detection codes. So then classifying networks. So this is all like first chapter stuff in the book. So it talks about just how you identify the difference between all these different networks. So we've got transmission types, and then you can identify them based on the type of transmission the network has or the size of the network. So there's only two transmission types. It's either a broadcast or a point-to-point network. So a broadcast network, it just means that like a single machine is shared by all the computers on the network. And then you've got point-to-point, where you've got a bunch of different machines that are talking to each other. So I don't know exactly. Again, I definitely am not like a pro yet on it, but these are just my high level overview, like takeaways and notes from the first chapter. So basically there's just two types of transmission that a network can be, transmission types. And then when we're talking about the size of networks, so there's like what we usually have, like what I'm using right now, a home network, what most of us are probably using a personal network. So this is like just our regular stuff, like routers in the house, our printers, fax machines, Wi-Fi, internet, all that good stuff, video games. All that is just our personal home network. So it has like a really short range. It's not going to go very far, and we can't pass data over long distances. But then we've got longer networks. So then we get into LAN, and it's funny because like when I was younger, I was playing like PlayStation 2 and everything. When online gaming first became a thing with PlayStation 2, I used to play like this game called SOCOM. And I remember when you connected to get online, you had to have an adapter that went on the back of your PlayStation. And then that adapter had like this Ethernet cord or whatever. You had to like a jack for it, and you had to plug in like your internet or whatever. And then you had to go in and configure your LAN. And I never knew what LAN was. I just remember always having to go on the back of the router and like get these numbers and do all this stuff, and it can wire it up on my PlayStation to get my, so I can game online. But I never knew what LAN stood for. I just remember that like you always had to go on the back of the router and look for the LAN and put that in, and that's how you got online. So this was cool to kind of read about LAN being a local area network, and it's just kind of the same concept as a personal area network, but just for longer ranges, so it can just go a little bit further. And yeah, so this is more of like companies. The examples they gave were like office buildings or campuses for schools, things like that. So we
it's can like wireless too, like wireless networking. It's wireless is a bit like WLAN is a big one.
Yeah, so I haven't even got that far yet. I haven't even read up on WLAN. But I thought it was just interesting how it's all kind of just based around what you're trying to do, like how many people are you trying to serve, how big is your radius. So then from there we've got metropolitan area networks. So these would be like cities and counties. And this makes sense because if I think about, like, for example, if I'm in Detroit, like I'm gonna have like certain websites or certain things can have domains for Detroit residents, or countries. We've got like if you ever go to like a .uk domain name or something like that, or like .fr for France and stuff like that. So it started to make sense. It was weird because I never really thought about the fact that subtle difference in a URL it just means you're on a totally different network. Yeah. So it was just cool to kind of see that. Then I guess there's like wide area, like continent based networks. I don't know a ton about that, but then obviously the World Wide Web is going to be, the internet is going to be the intranetwork or internetwork. So if you combine two or more networks, then you've got the internet. So yep. And then from there, I kind of got off into a subset of some of the topics that were in the chapter, because he was alluding to certain things about like protocols and stuff like that. But again, I guess this whole curriculum is not so much meant for like speed as much as comprehension. So I decided to slow down and like go read some other resources on like networks and stuff like or network protocols to help kind of go back and be able to understand while I'm reading the book a little bit more. So this was kind of my high level overview takeaway from the first chapter of, again, I think this is called computing networks or computer networks book. And this down here, these networking protocol parts are from somewhere separate resources, but these are again just high level definitions right here, and then I'm going to go more into these as I continue with networking.
Yeah, from a developer context, those are the ones that are going to be the most relevant.
So before actually going and reading this this post, I had seen TCP, but I didn't really know what it stood for or what it was. I did not know UDP. Obviously, HTTP is probably the most popular one, and FTP, I knew what it stood for, and I knew pretty much, because if you know the name file transfer protocol, then it kind of gives itself away what it does. But I still have a lot more to learn about the inner workings of them all. So, starting from the top, TCP is transmission control protocol, and basically it's just what allows a network to know what format the data needs to be sent in on this network. So if it's JSON, if it's XML, like whatever it is, it specifies that all communication on this network has to be in a certain format. So that's all TCP is. UDP sounds like it's an older version. I think it came out in 1980 or at least the 1980s. But basically, it's similar to TCP, except there's no air handling or checking. So everything is just constantly sent. Like data is just constantly sent without waiting for a confirmation that the recipient got the data that you sent them. It's just constantly hitting them with data. So I guess this is good for what we're doing right now, like live streams and broadcasting, gaming, and stuff like that. So thought that was interesting. HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Oh, and the last one is User Datagram Protocol, obviously. But so Hypertext Transfer Protocol is the one that we're all probably at least the most familiar with. So it's built on top of TCP, which I thought was interesting. And it's basically what allows the client-server communication of like the request response that we're familiar with, like APIs, servers, URLs, all that good stuff. And then FTP, like we said, file transfer protocol, and it just allows file transfer between two computers on a very basic overview level. But I definitely have a lot more to learn on all of this stuff. So I guess I was just familiarizing myself with the basic concepts. I read some blogs that gave me some additional information. But, you know, in these notes, I'm trying to keep it pretty objective so that whenever we decide to package up our notes and everything and share it with you guys, that it'll be nice and reliable and just condensed. You don't have to dig through a bunch of unnecessary like words and sections. So that's it for the networking stuff that I was reading. So I'm gonna move over to threading. So this was all kind of based on operating systems. So this was like my Wednesday / like Thursday reading a little bit. Was based around operating systems. So this was kind of the DevOps Bootcamp a little bit. So my DevOps Bootcamp for this week, the section was operating systems. So I kind of double dipped. My DevOps Bootcamp notes are also part of my operating system notes. So the basic, you know, types of operating system, high level overview. So we've got, and again, not like a super expert in these things yet, but just familiarizing myself with just the options and what, you know, the type of variation. So there's the single and multitasking operating system, and it can only run one task at a time. And so the other types are single multi-user, so it can hold multiple users interacting with each other. You've got embedded operating systems, so I guess these are like our Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. And we've got real-time, which I forgot what I was reading. I think this is in the DevOps Bootcamp. It didn't give specific examples of the precise timing applications, so I would have to do more research on that. But again, these are just like high-level types and variations of operating systems or what they could be. I guess that's not so much important as it is to know the operating system itself, like Linux or, you know, whatever, to actually know how to use it and know how to use the terminal or command lines. So again, there was another section in the DevOps Bootcamp where it started breaking off and talking about threading as a part of talking about operating systems. And I didn't have a good enough understanding of threading or threads to really keep up with the section. So I stopped right there in the DevOps Bootcamp and then went and looked up some additional resources and kind of did some separate research on threads and threading just so I could kind of go back and kind of comprehend what I'm understanding in that bootcamp. So thread is is short for just a thread of execution, and it describes how a processor in our computer or our operating system, how it follows a specified path through our code. So obviously, if a processor can follow more than one thread, then we're talking multitasking or multi-threaded operating systems. And a way to think about it is a computer, or the way I thought about it is a computer has many applications, and many applications have many processes. So those processes are made up of threads, and they all have a bunch of separate threads going on. So they all compete for processing time. So it sounds like you don't want to have a bunch of threads just aimlessly running around in your programs and stuff like that, because it'll slow down your computer or just crash it in general. So you don't want, and they also take up memory. So you don't want to have a whole bunch of them going, if you can avoid it, from what I was reading. So let's see. So yeah, so if your computer has multiple processing units or CPUs, then your computer or your operating system can separate multiple threads or distribute multiple threads to different CPUs and have them all doing different things at the same time. So I suppose that's like a multi-threaded operating system. Let's see. If a mother runs on one CPU, they're gonna be active at time switching. Yep. So then there was this idea of like switching between threads, like your operating system. So basically, if your operating system, if a thread is executed and it needs to wait on something to happen, like a response or something like that, from a server or anything, then that downtime from the processor is apparently not a good thing. Like, you don't want idle downtime on your processor. So this switching, or this switch-based like operating or switch-based threads and all this stuff, you can basically switch between threads as you're waiting on things to happen. So that first thread does something, and while it's waiting, it immediately goes to the next thread, executes that one. While that one's waiting, it goes and executes the next one. So it's doing them all, not exactly simultaneously, but one after the other. And you reduce the amount of like latent time your processor has, because it's always doing something. It's executing things anytime it's just not doing something. It finds something else to go execute. So this is like my high level stuff on threads. It definitely helps to just kind of understand what they are, and what they mean, their purpose, but definitely have big room for opportunity on getting deeper with that and kind of knowing how that stuff works. So those are my notes for the week. So I'll switch back over, and so I'll say my projects and stuff that I was working on this week. I ran into a lot of issues, man, that I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of struggling with, and it's been frustrating these last like maybe 3 days. So I'm building a C# API, and I really just want to get better with building APIs with C# and just understanding kind of like how, because I don't need to know necessarily like Razor. I mean, it's fine, but I plan to use like a framework on the front end. So I just really want to get comfortable with my logic and my API requests and making endpoints and just all that stuff in C# specifically. So I'm doing these projects where I'm trying to connect to MySQL and, just do all my basic like CRUD operations. And the issue that I'm running into, man, is that, all right, number one, I'm following a tutorial, so I guess that's part of it. I'm doing a Udemy, because the reason why I'm using the tutorial is because I'm using Visual Studio on Mac, and I'm using this brand new like .NET Core stuff and everything. And I know you have it at, I know you use it at work, so I don't know if you ran into this before, but basically there's like this. So Entity Framework has this thing for migrations, right? Just like Ruby and Rails or whatever. So I can make my models, and it just goes and creates my tables, and it does everything for me in MySQL once you have everything configured. And the problem is I can't get that. The terminal commands won't work on my computer. So anytime I go into the terminal, so basically I'm able to get the API connected to MySQL, and I'm able to get data saving, everything working, but I can't update the tables, like at least with Entity Framework, like using all that stuff. So what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to just straight up manually create my tables and everything, and figure out how to just manually do it. The resources are just really bad for Mac on how to do all this stuff. So I guess that's why it's been such a kind of nightmare. But so every time I go to do this command in the terminal, it says like .NET can't be found, or like that command can't be recognized or whatever. But if I just do like .NET --info or .NET --version, it'll tell me all my SDK versions, all my everything. So all my .NET Core versions. So everything is there. Everything's on my computer, and all my file paths are right, because I blew up one project just like playing around with my file paths on my machine, and that didn't help. So my issue has been trying to figure out how to get this. Well, I kind of gave up on that part now, honestly, getting this .NET ORM thing to work. And now I'm just trying to figure out how do I manually just configure my own, or write my own tables in SQL, and then still allow my API to like, or I don't know if I still need Entity Framework, like if I can still use all the same methods and stuff that come with Entity Framework in C# to communicate with MySQL if I'm not using the migration tool. But it's just been a nightmare, man. So that's been my project. So basically, like in conjunction with everything I just kind of recap, that's where I'm at on the coding front, what I'm working through. And
sounds like you gotta isolate your variables, man.
What'd you say?
It sounds like you got to isolate your variables. Like you're trying to do MySQL, Entity Framework, and write C# APIs all at the same time without having a thorough understanding of of any of them. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like pick one and get it set up, and then add the other one. So like, because Entity Framework's optional, you don't necessarily have to use that. And it's like any other framework. Like if you use the framework, it makes it easy, but then you gotta play it by its rules. So you might just want to wait on that and just write a C# API that connects to a MySQL database, and just eliminate one area of
just confusion.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like just clean it, like simplify it by just write an API, connect to a MySQL database, and then go from there. And then you can use Entity Framework. I've used it, not extensively, but one thing that I've heard people talking about is that it's good to get things up and running, but that like ongoing customizations can be a problem, like adding columns or something, or like I remember.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm running into right now.
Your column names have to match perfectly.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm going through right now. Yeah. Not so much the column names and stuff, like that part's fine. It's just like the actual dependency part and like getting everything installed in your computer. Like, I mean, I really think it's a Mac thing, man. I really do, because I feel like if I had a PC, then I wouldn't have so many formatting and dependency issues. But like, yeah, I'm getting a ton of just errors when I know everything is up to date on my computer. I tried a bunch of like uninstalls and reinstalls, and tried a bunch of different versions and global installs, and I'm still running into it. So I think that's actually good advice. That's actually good advice, is to take a step back, scrap the project, and just start from scratch, and just go with try to find some sort of like blog or resource that basically walks me through how to just connect it manually, because all it is like a lot of connection strings, A lot of like startup CS file stuff, like add a couple lines to startup CS file, add a couple lines to like your launch settings JSON, stuff like that. So it's not, hopefully it won't be too crazy just to get the connection to MySQL and just do it manually, because that would be better anyway. It's like that way you're just completely, like, you're not dependent on anything, and that'd be best right now. So that's actually really good advice.
You could do you could use Dapper too. Dapper's like a lighter weight version. It's a micro ORM or whatever.
Nice.
So it does similar things. It makes it really it makes it easier to like query the data.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't come with as much red tape.
Nice, bro. I appreciate that. That's a good that's a good suggestion. So to move on to your notes, are we able to figure out how to can we kind of play around with sharing your screen right now? Because I'm not sure if I've never done this before, so I can't even really walk you through it. If you're on Skype, I'm guessing somewhere in the top you should be able to see, there should be a tab for you to share your screen, and I'm guessing that through Ecamm Live, when you share your screen, it should automatically get it over here as well.
Actually, all my stuff is on a because I'm switching jobs. I'm transitioning everything off of the Windows computer onto on everything Mac, and my home computer is Mac. So everything I've been doing is on that. So I'm actually on a different computer right now. So I think I don't have much. I don't have much that would need to be seen. I think it'd probably be better just to talk about the stuff at a conceptual level, because that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. And then too many going through the notes. I mean, it's basically the same stuff I'm going to say anyway. And then I've got the notes right in front of me anyway too. So
all right, for sure. Are they like Google Drive? Are they able to be shareable?
Oh, I can get them to you. Yeah, they're just local on the computer.
Okay, yeah, for sure. If you could just drop them in the Google Drive, and then what I want to do for each week is like take the basic overviews from my notes and your notes and La's notes, and I'll make weekly recaps. So like I'll take all of our stuff and just kind of combine them all together based on topics, and I'll just smash them all together, and we can do something with that, put them out or something like that. So yeah, all right, cool. So I'll take my own notes kind of here, whatever, and I'll be listening to what you're saying, bro. I got this new notepad. So like my uncle got me this for Christmas. So like, all right, so you take this, right? This is like a regular notepad. It's like erasable pen, all this stuff. I can take a picture of this, and this QR code, it'll send it to any like cloud drive I want. So like it'll transcribe it from like PDF to text. So I can just like write all my notes out by hand, but then have like a Google Doc in a couple seconds. You know what I mean? Like, so nice. It's sweet. So I kind of just want to play with it. So I'm gonna take some notes while you while you're going over everything. Yeah,
that's actually something I'm gonna need to revisit with you about, because for some of like for one of the side projects, I'm like that would be actually very useful.
Yeah, this is sweet, man. I like it. I like it so far. It's like a productivity hack. It's not like a whole new product, but it's just it makes note taking way more.
Nothing either.
Yeah, it makes it way more effective.
All right. Well, yeah. So like I said, it was a short week to start here. We talked Wednesday, and then since then I've been primarily looking at React and Redux, and then in addition to that, I kind of revamped my schedule based on like need moving forward. So some of what I've been researching was on more of like the professional side, and more like the industry info, which I actually do. Let me get that pulled up too. I got notes in my book as well, so I can go through what I highlighted there. Really basic. I mean, pretty straightforward stuff. Nothing that's gonna really blow anybody's mind, but I think it's all important. So the way I'm tweaking my schedule a little bit is that Friday nights I normally like to just chill when I come home and just kind of like decompress from the week. So that's actually and I ran it through yesterday, and it actually worked out pretty well, where I just spent the night, instead of like smashing on any code or reading or anything like that, I actually just took a step back and looked at the overall project structure, how everything's working, how I have it all set up in order to set myself up for a productive weekend. And then I use that time to do some of the professional research, and I've kind of got it like in my head, just kind of as like a strategy. Like Friday nights, I'm just doing overall strategy and approach and refinement and stuff like that. And then that started. It set me up for this morning, and I started looking into more Redux and all that kind of stuff. But that's going to be centered around a big project, which is like the CRM, which you and I had talked about previously. But what I'm going to do is take it and turn it into, at least conceptually, into like a toolbox essentially, and then I'm going to make a bunch of different tools, and then each tool will have a different purpose, it could be in different tech stacks or whatever, and I'll use that as my project base, but it'll also be contributing to a larger whole of this toolkit. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's it helps me for one of my side projects, but at the same time, it lines up with this, this curriculum that we're trying to build as well. Because I've got all different like chat bots and like document. That's why I said something about that document thing, because document like indexing and like I don't know, machine learning, like in terms of like text processing, all that good stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. In terms of like the overall setup, and I think I got a pretty good foundation in terms of what needs to be done, market research and all that kind of stuff. But I guess so. I got the two main things that I have are just transitioning from one job to another / marketing or / like market stuff, professional career stuff, and then React and Redux. So I don't know which if you have a preference, which order you want to go in.
It's up to you.
It'll probably be better. Honestly, it'll probably be better if we just do it as like a conversation instead of me just kind
one sec. La's saying she's on, so let me try to. La, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just want to let you know. See, I've been here for a while.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. No, so that's
why you go through your notes. I've been here for a while.
Oh, really? Okay. Actually, that's
Hello.
Hey, Jess, how you doing?
Yeah, how we doing?
All right, so now.
You don't see me because my picture's not on. My screen's off. Like all you see is my picture profile. That's why.
Yeah, are you able to have your screen on, or
maybe at some point I'll put my screen on?
Okay, all right, no worries. That's cool then. I just want to make sure that everybody's good, so we can, so that everybody. I didn't even know you were here actually, so that's perfect.
My apologies. I should have said something before, but I've been moving around, so I just put my mute on. I didn't want to interrupt.
Okay, no, that's cool. That's perfect. All right, so cool. So everybody is here. So okay, so Justin, yeah, wherever you want to start, man, that's fine.
I guess we can do the React stuff first, because I think the professional stuff kind of has more of like a danger of it spiraling into some conversation about whatever, you know. So really, I've been looking at React more or less passively for like a year and a half now, and I've got a pretty I'm pretty comfortable with like the foundation, like the basics of, you know, the components, how we're rendering things, props and children, and just all the basic stuff that really like builds the site at the end of the day. I've been diving more into the configuration and stuff like that, and trying to be able to scaffold projects myself without needing to rely on so many tools. But mainly the last 2 days it's been understanding Redux, and that is a little bit more the abstract, I guess would be a good way to put it. Like you got to kind of wrap your mind around what it's doing. And then once you have that, it's easier to understand like the problem that it solves. So I guess to like roll back a little bit, before I didn't understand that how the single page application like React or Angular or Vue, like SPA, like how they were changing the dynamic of the website itself. I didn't really understand that, but that's something that clicked more or less recently. So a regular HTML, CSS, JavaScript website or whatever, you design the page however you want, and there's data and information that you're changing, manipulating. Traditionally, you know, you end up in like, and we've seen this where we worked, like a bunch of Ajax calls just running all over the place. And that's because in order to change and update any of the information, you actually have to make a server call every time you're trying to change and update that information. So what a single page application does allows you to basically load the page up front. You load everything that you need, and then all the manipulation and changes that take place are all tracked in the browser, essentially like real time as you're manipulating the page. And then the only time you have to send information back to the server is when you officially update something. So just to keep it simple, if I pull down a bank account, like bank account info, and the balance is $20, I could change it however many times I want, add 200, take 200 away. All that matters is at the total that I want to submit to the server for updating. And everything in between is just contained in the browser itself. And again, this is like just kind of my understanding of it. So if it doesn't make sense, then let me know. I'll try to phrase it differently or something, because I am still trying to figure all this stuff out on the fly. And what Redux is doing now is basically giving you the ability. You don't need to build a React application with Redux. You can manage state on your own, but it can quickly get pretty confusing and jumbled and hard to maintain. So what Redux does is after the page is loaded, when you're making all these changes to the state, Redux acts as like this kind of like essentially a little mini cloud that kind of handles all of the changes, and it acts as like the source of truth for your application. So that anytime you update state, you update Redux, and then all of the pieces of your application pull the data from Redux. So and then that keeps continuity throughout the data in your application. Now the way that happens though, so like there's all right. So structurally, there's the React library which you'll pull into your project, and then there's the Redux library which you pull into your project as well via npm or whatever, yarn or whatever, and then there's also a React-Redux library that is what enables the two libraries to talk to each other. So you've got three libraries that you're pulling into your project in order to kind of facilitate all of this. But and that's where I'm currently at. It started getting a little confusing with the React Redux part of it. But essentially what Redux does, it's called a store. That's where your state lives. And then there's what's called a dispatch. At the end of the day, these are all just JavaScript functions. They're just called different things conceptually in order to make everything look, because you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell this by just looking at it. It's more of like a high level like description of what the application's doing. So there's action creators, and then those create actions, obviously, and actions are just JavaScript objects, and those get sent to the state, and that's what does the updating. But it gets there via these things called it's a dispatcher, which is basically like a controller essentially. Like you send the dispatch your JavaScript object that you want to use to update the state. The dispatch then looks at all of your different reducers, picks the right one. It gets sent through the reducer to update the state of the application. And there's one singular dispatch that's like a controller, and then the reducers are all just different pieces of data that your application is dealing with. So like it could like the one from the demo that I was watching was there's like a song list, there's like and like a song, and each one updates a different piece of information. So it actually ends up having there's two different reducers, one for each one. So anytime you're updating a song list, you'd use that particular the song list reducer. Anytime you're updating a single song, you use the song reducer. But that's all pre-configured in like projects set up by you. Like you wire up all the reducers to the dispatch in such a way that when you pass in a particular JavaScript object, it knows it can choose automatically which one to pick. It's sort of like the factory pattern, where you're outsourcing all of the logic of what to return into a separate class itself, and then you feed the data into the class. The class determines which subclass to return, and then it returns it and updates the state accordingly. I know this is all very weird and confusing, so I'm not familiar at all with Redux, so it's my first time really actually getting like a high level like explainer of it. So I'm kind of just soaking it up.
Did you have anything else like topic wise or anything that you wanted to dive into before you?
No, I mean in terms of like pros and cons, I haven't really like played with it enough yet. But there is like, because right now, because you don't necessarily have to build your React application with Redux. Like I said, Redux is a standalone library. It can be used in Angular applications. It can be used for elsewhere. So right now where I'm at is I've figured out the basics of Redux, but I'm getting the React library and the Redux libraries to talk to one another right now. That's where I'm at. So it's all pretty good. I mean, it's all like I at least finally understand the problem that it's solving, which helps like alleviate a lot of the confusion about like because before I was looking at it, I'm like, why the hell would you even do this? Why why would you put all these extra steps in there? And the course that I was taking for it, the instructor laid out, like explained it very well, and it's basically it helps you manage state. That's what it literally does. But the primary benefit of you bringing in Redux is it's reducing long-term complexity of the application. So, like I said before, managing state manually can get out of hand in a hurry, just like managing any JavaScript heavy application can do if you don't put the necessary safeguards in place. So what you have is like two different scenarios. One is where you don't use Redux. The barrier, like the learning curve at the beginning is way lower, so you can get in and start doing more faster. But over time, you end up on an exponential curve of complexity as the project grows and as you add people to the project, so on and so forth. Redux, you're essentially raising the level of complexity at the beginning in order to get a basic understanding of what you need to do and how you need to do it. But it doesn't necessarily flatten, but it really shallows out the complexity curve long term, because it locks down how you can change state. There's only one way to do it. So it creates an intentional sort of bottleneck that that everybody has to conform to. So now if any changes are being made, everybody knows exactly how those changes are being made, which in turn reduces complexity of the project, which I thought was really cool, because I know me and you know like what it's like to be in a project where standards aren't enforced and even just processes aren't enforced. And that's that it just becomes a big jumbled mess really fast, and it's sort of like a inevitable force of nature. Like the project wants to get crazy and more complex, but you got to kind of prevent it from doing so, and that's what Redux has done so far, which I thought was really cool and really useful.
So before you get into the soft skill stuff or the career stuff, did you have anything related to the like network and operating system databases or like the DevOps Bootcamp you wanted to add? Or did you get a chance to read up on any of that stuff?
Yeah, so I'm basically I think I'm on the second or third lesson, because I already had the setup done in advance, like with Docker and everything like that. So the only thing that I would add about the network stuff is like the distinction between, because at the end of the day, networking is an entire field that people just do networking things, and like they get paid good money for it, you know? So there's a shit ton of information. So I don't know if I can curse on that. Don't want to get booted off of YouTube or whatever. I lost my train of thought. So there's networking fundamentals, and it's like, all right, if I like, what do you actually need to know at the end of the day as a developer? And I think that's a key distinction there, because like I'm not trying to airdrop you via helicopter into the middle of a jungle in Colombia, where you're going to have to make a network, or you're going to have to make a radio and communicate with some cell phone tower or something, you know. It's like, but that technically falls under the networking bucket, you know. So I do think all that stuff's interesting, but in the concept of, or in the realm of web development, I think those protocols, TCP/IP and HTTPS and FTP, UDP, like all of those are like are what I would sort of call the core of what a developer should know. Obviously, the rabbit hole goes a lot deeper, but that's the only thing I would add, because it's really like the way I conceptualize it is like TCP/IP is like the meat and potatoes of it all, and really that's just like a giant or like a mini version of UPS. You know, like UPS takes up things, packages them, and sends them everywhere. It just happens at a slower pace and a smaller scale than what this is. But I think that's probably a good analogy for that. But that's all I would add. I mean, it's a really big field, so I'm looking forward to learning more about it. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Other than the
For sure. So let's see if La, I don't know, are you still with us?
You don't see me? My screen's on now.
I can't see you. So let me see. One sec. Select girl.
You can't see me. I'll go.
No. You're good. You're good. We can hear you. I might have to actually. I might just need to do a separate live stream one day throughout the week where we just like figure out how to. I probably should have done this beforehand. Just had like a trial and just made sure. I assume naturally, once you answered the call, it would add you like it adds other people. So I thought we'd be able to see you. So let me see, because I know you probably have. Do you have documents in the Google Drive? Because I can share my screen of the documents if they're in the Google Drive, and then you can talk through them, and I can have them up on my screen while you look at them. You can just tell me which documents to have up.
I don't have them on my Google Drive. No. I can talk to my notes, and you can use your fancy pen, like you were talking about with Justin.
Yeah.
I want to comment
India.
About your Redux. I thought that was interesting because I work at a startup, and I complain all the time to Darian about the fact that they want us to use Redux, and I'm against it. But I think you made a compelling argument that I didn't quite think about. That you're right. That a lot of times our project at the initial start of the project, they're very small. And you're right. A lot of times our projects, they scale over the course of 4 or 5 years. And a lot of things that we're dealing with now with our legacy projects are that they don't have Redux. So we have to try to follow props and try to follow these things throughout the application. It becomes very difficult over time. So you do make a very interesting, a compelling point to use Redux from the beginning, even though initially it's going to be more taxing, but in the long haul, it'd be more beneficial for your project. So,
Right on.
La, is your camera on? There we go. Bang. So now I got all right, so this is funny. All right, so I've got everybody, but now there's 4 of us. If y'all can see it, there's like 4 square. I have all the cameras selected. So include switcher, active speaker. Yeah, I don't know. We got 4 screens, but
we got 2 lives.
Yeah, we got 2 lives.
I'm only on one time.
No, it's me. It's something that I'm doing. Yeah, it's something that I'm doing. So
we can roll with it though. Like we'll get it ironed out.
Oh no, La, come back. Now it's 2 Justins.
I don't know if the world can handle 2 me's.
Oh
Really?
Man, huh? La, we lost you. We lost your video.
Okay, I'll wait for you guys. Hold on, I have to do something. Come on.
All right, there we go. All right, she's back. All right, cool. So we got her. Yeah, I don't know. I got you on 2 screens, La. I'll figure out how to get you not on 2 screens for the next stream. But yeah, right now we're gonna roll with it. So, again, y'all, for everybody who's still watching, tuned in with us, appreciate y'all for tuning in. This is our first week doing the remote dev bootcamp. We're basically, it's a career progression bootcamp, open source resources, schedule, communication, everything that we put together, using free tools to kind of just basically hold each other accountable and make sure that we kind of are staying up to speed on the things that we don't get to do on a daily basis in our roles or jobs as software developers, or things that we might not just have a good enough foundational understanding of. And so we have a weekly curriculum that is kind of laid out, and these are the live streams every weekend for 2020. We'll be coming here to kind of recap and talk about what we did throughout the week. So if you guys are into tech, startups, entrepreneurship, coding, any of that good stuff, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate y'all for being here with us. And we're going to go, and when La gets a sec, we're going to go into our last our last remote dev student, and she's gonna share whatever she learned with us for this week.
Sure. I'm sorry, guys. I have a puppy, and he's distracting me. Distracting. You might hear him bark from time to time. I apologize in advance. But yeah, so I started the course. I followed the course pretty much. So I'm in the middle of reading about networking, operating systems, and databases. So to start with networking, pretty much just started with the. I'm not going to read through my notes. I don't really feel like that's beneficial, but what I will do is I'll talk about in summary what I understand of it and how I understand it to be. What I thought was very interesting was that all three of these books talked about the very beginning of foundational parts of whether it was the operating system, whether it was a database system, or whether it was a network. A network is a system. And that was one thing that was interesting to me, that I didn't know that they all were systems. So I sort of thought about them all, I don't know, like sort of individually, like they all did different things. But when they all boiled down, they all were just systems. You know, all systems made up of certain parts, and they had certain rules that needed to be followed for the system to operate. So that was pretty interesting looking at it linearly, because I was reading about the beginning of networking on Wednesday, the beginning of operating systems on Thursday, and the beginning of databases on Friday. So it was pretty interesting to see how they all sort of overlapped in the introduction. Operating system was interesting because it was interesting to understand that it was a system. You know, I've built the computer before from scratch. So I've built the parts, and I understand how the parts work together and the memory and all that stuff. But it was interesting that when they talked about the operating system, they didn't really talk about the parts. They talked about it as a system of software, and how it managed, and how the software managed the hardware of the operating system to give us what we know as today of the computer, and how it managed applications. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty interesting for me to understand, and also how it went back to the fundamentals of how operating systems were just little programs that told the computer what to do. Mm-hmm. I sort of forgot about that. So that was interesting, just to bring everything back to, and just as I'm writing applications every day on a larger scale, at the end of the day, all a computer is a bunch of applications that's being built to work together to give me what I need. Whether it's in a network, whether it's the operating system, or whether it's in a database, all they are a bunch of systems of applications working together to give me something that I need to work. Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was interesting from a higher level or overview of just what everything was. I think in particular things that were interesting to me was that network is pretty much architecture. So when we think about the LAN or the WAN, which mean a local area network, or the I think it was the wide area network, metropolitan area network, all those are just like design patterns. So that was interesting to think about. You know, I just thought they were sort of entities. They're not really entities, they just design patterns. And I guess when you're sort of building whatever you build, you sort of reuse these design patterns over and over again. So that was interesting to understand about how that worked. I mean, of course, it gives me more details to what they are and how they work and how they operate, but it was just interesting to know that. And like even things like we use like wireless, that's just pretty much a protocol, so to speak. You know, like no different than HTTPS. It's like a protocol. So that was interesting to understand that. And Ethernet, it's like a protocol, a way of doing things. So that was interesting for me.
One sec, like, can you say that last part again about? Would you say mobile, or what'd you say?
Wireless, and they just protocol.
Wireless, yeah.
Yeah, wireless is just a protocol. Like, you know, Ethernet is just a protocol. It's under the local area network. There's a protocol. It has specific rules, specific structures, and way to be followed. And a lot of these things are just called certain names because they want to be, you know, I don't know. We think about computer science. You hear a lot of times people say you can do whatever you want. It really doesn't matter how you do it. You can do it what you want to do. But it's interesting because with the networking, all network is really doing is trying to make it so that everyone's doing the same thing. So it's calling things the same thing. It's identifying little protocols or structures or frameworks or design patterns so that we're all doing the same thing, and the same thing is efficient and that works the best overall for the computer system. So that's pretty much interesting to me about how a network is. And it's also, I guess, the basic understanding of a network is just a connection between one thing and another. That's really interesting. Like, you know, I thought of it more in a different way.
I agree. Like, I thought, like, I was reading this article about anytime you make a request from your computer to a server, like, it starts with opening the request to the server. And then same thing, I think about, like, database, the same thing, too. Like, you have to open a request to the database before you can do any queries or anything like that. So, like, I thought that was interesting as well because you don't see it so much. It's happening kind of, like, behind the scenes, so you don't necessarily see these things. But that, I thought that was interesting too. That's
the difference with your when you talk about TCP and UDP too. There's a one-way, there's like no handshake, and then there's like TCP IP like requires a handshake, which is what you're talking. Like I open up a request to the server responds with a response saying, okay, go ahead and send me whatever you got. That's like a two-way. But then like UDP doesn't require a two-way handshake, so it's just met like for streaming services and stuff. It's faster. It's just dumping out the information regardless, and you just grab like from your end, you just grab the stream essentially, versus like a two-way deal. Anyway.
No, yeah, I'm sorry, bro. I lost you on the stream. I was just trying to get you back real quick.
Oh, right on.
So,
all right, there we go. All right, I finally have all three of us. Oh my God, I figured it out. Here we are, and I don't know if y'all can see us, but here's all three of us. No extras.
There's a delay on the YouTube channel. It was breaking my brain.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out what was happening. I'm sorry, Justin. Can you say that one more time?
Just the distinction between two-way and one-way communication is like a nuance of this topic. Like the two-way communication requires a handshake, where it's like I reach out, say I'm going to send you some stuff. The server reaches back and says, "Okay, send me stuff," and then the communication.
And then they go right.
Well, one-way doesn't require a handshake. So
right. So like UDP is what you're saying. Where basically it's just I'm just gonna send you stuff regardless all the time. Yeah.
Because then it's about like your computer when it just receives it and tries to put all the packets in the right order. But like if something gets lost or missing or whatever, like it doesn't care. It just keeps going. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like I think TCP, like I think it tries to put them in a more specific order. Anyway.
Yeah. I think that's good, man. So Lara, are you still there, or you just have your camera off?
I'm still there.
Okay, all right, cool. I lost you on the video. I just didn't know if you did that purposely. If you did, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure.
So the last part of the networks that I'm on to right now is just the internet, which I find very interesting because I do a lot of blockchain work. So just really thinking about the internet and how that's connected, and thinking about blockchain and understanding the wide world network, wild world, the www, understanding what that is. That's just middleware, software over top of the internet, which is very interesting to understand all these little nuances now that I understand what software is and what middleware is. So that's pretty much where I was at on networks.
We've been like everybody's talking about microservices these days. Like all microservices are doing is just deconstructing your application to just be an API and a client, and you're just leveraging the network. That's it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just instead of having it all in one single place, you just we got a network already. Cool. Just send it back and forth as we need it.
Yep. I agree. I think it's cool. I think we all ended up in a pretty good spot related to the concept of networking for the first week. And again, for anybody that's watching, this is a Monday through basically Friday curriculum, and then we recap on the weekend. So this week was a short week, being New Year's. We started on Wednesday and went through Friday, so our recap was a bit more focused and tailored. Sounds like networking was kind of our big kind of takeaway here, what we all got a better understanding of this week. So I'll be sure to get all the notes from everybody.
I got a little bit more for you, Darren.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. So I was gonna do a transition off of the technical stuff, the note stuff, and then we can transition into like some of the other soft skill stuff. Because I have some personal reading that I'm gonna share, just like some stuff going into, and we can kind of kick any of those things, personal resources personal development stuff we might be looking into and share. So yeah. Yo, go ahead, bro. Whenever you're ready.
All right, so like I'm not trying to keep it without like ranting or mentioning any names, but I'm getting ready. Like I'm in like the notice period of my one job going into another, and I'm starting to get. I'm starting to get. I mean, I was already a little annoyed anyway, but that's a different conversation. Like I'm the way this is being handled is starting to irritate me a little bit, and I just kind of wanted to make it public here, just so somebody that hears it can use it or whatever. I've basically been dealt like a pretty healthy dose of just straight up guilt for the last week and a half of my life. Like they're just my current employer. They're just sitting me down and just basically like trying to guilt me into staying for 2 weeks. After I kind of told them like, hey, I'm gonna be like, I got an offer elsewhere. I'm gonna be moving on. And then it turned into this like, oh, you gotta stay for 2 weeks. You don't want to ruin any relationships. You don't want to destroy all your relationships because it's a small community in the Detroit area and you all these reasons, and they're just laying it on thick, and it's really starting to annoy me because at the end of the day, we're at-will employees. They could fire us at any moment for any reason that they want, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, I know that they don't care about me at all. So the fact that they're trying to flip it on me and make it like and guilt me into staying just so to buy them more time to figure out what they're going to do with me leaving, I just thought that was kind of out of line. And the reality of the situation is that when I switch new jobs, I'm going to be getting paid way more money. So like, what incentive do I have to stay? And the more I'm thinking about it, the answer is zero, right? So this is a business situation. This is not an emotional situation. And I think that is something that would be valuable for people to understand, is that like, yeah, I want to leave this place. I've been at this place for 3 years. I want to leave on good terms. But if they don't understand that me leaving ultimately results in more money for me to be able to pay my student loans, then I don't need them around anyway. You know what I mean? And I thought it was unfair of them to try to pull some emotional terrorism play just to try to get 2 more weeks out of me, and I just thought that it was kind of rough. So I think, what I'm ultimately going to do is go talk to who I need to talk to and explain that to them and just let them know that I'm not actually trying to leave or screw anybody over. Just explain the context, like timing with the holidays. This is how it all played out. Here we are. I need to do this because I need to go make more money. And if, like I said, if they can't understand that, then whatever, Yeah.
Did you have something else too when we first, or was that the same thing when we first started?
That's not it. That's just the intro.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
So actual like useful information other than that is it. So I'm reading a book about freelance and contract development. So what it's talking about is essentially in the beginning part here is it goes
what's it called?
Hold on one second. I can get it up for you.
Yeah, because I'll as part of the recap, I'll add book list, reading list, all that stuff.
It's called Going It Alone, like capital IT. The handbook for freelance. They cut off.
Who's it by?
Leon Brown.
All right, cool.
Going It Alone, the handbook for freelance and contract software developers. Cool. And really, it's pretty basic stuff. I mean, it's not like I said, nothing crazy. It's just all consolidated in one place and easy to kind of get through. Mm-hmm. The first part's about the benefits of contract work and some flexibility and different like job aspects that it opens up for you. But I thought the other interesting part to bring up here was in terms of pricing. So like you and I had talked previously about like working on some projects and trying to do certain little freelance projects or whatever. And I think we were kind of in the natural trap that exists when you start to offer your services to people on a contract or a freelance basis. And it was basically like, yeah, we'll do what they're doing and it'll be, $10 an hour less than everyone else, and then volume will make money and yada yada yada. And the more I'm reading about it, the more that's just not true, or at least what the evidence seems to be pointing to, right? So basically, the other thing to consider in that scenario is like where you live, and in terms of like cost of living, if you're essentially if you're in a first world country, there's always going to be somebody else undercutting what you're. So even if everybody in your area is selling services for $30 an hour and you're good with 25, right? It's just there's always going to be people coming up underneath where you're at, and it's kind of a you end up having to put way too much work in to make way too little money.
Yeah, of course.
But what that essentially does is basically it's kind of like it's kind of like dating, I guess, if you will. Like for someone that's looking for freelance work, they're going to fall into the same trap from a consumer side where they're going to ask someone for something for what they feel is a reasonable price, but maybe it isn't. Mm-hmm. And then they get burnt by someone who, like, they're coming in with unrealistic expectations, saying, "Hey, I want you to build this whole platform that does all this crazy stuff, and I want you to do it all for $450."
Right. Right.
And that's just, it's setting both people up for failure, right? So, but but as a consumer, they've got to kind of get burnt by that once first as well, in order to understand the value. And like, all right, I'm not just going to try to hire some random person for that just because they're cheaper, right? Like, it's sort of getting burnt by that shifts the consumer's focus to quality more so than price point. And that was a big aha moment for me, where it was like, yeah, okay, you need to be at a level of quality that you're comfortable with to justify a high
exactly
rate. Because, not only because of the economics of the situation, but because of the message that it sends to the people that are purchasing or seeking your services, where it's like, oh wow, $100 an hour, oh wow, this they must be the real deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you undercharge yourself, or if you can charge a competitive like price in the market, it's just like, okay, well, this is cheap. Like, this is like, I don't so people don't always have a good connotation of buying a cheap service or paying for something cheap. So
yeah. And it's also this is a good an easy access point for imposter syndrome to hop into the equation, right? Because it's just something I was dealing with recently. It's like, oh wow, I got a new job, it's more money. Wait, maybe I don't know enough to be able to do this job, and like this thought starts spiraling out of control, right? And I guess like I'm 3 years in the industry right now, and that's kind of the tipping point for this kind of issue. So I guess maybe, I don't know. It's hard to know what everyone else knows or doesn't know. You know what I'm saying? Because like you're essentially trying to price point yourself based on what you think, the market demands or what the market will allow, and that's a very, what I'm finding out is that's a really complicated math equation in terms of all the dynamics that could go into it. So I think the difference though is that we're not, as if you're a remote developer, you're not bound by geography. So I think there's something to be said, like depending on the cost of living where you live, you got to price yourself according to that, but at the same time, if you live in London, right, the price point is going to be so high that if you're trying to get a job from someone that's in, like Kansas, they're not going to be able to pay London money for a website that would otherwise cost that amount, right? And I don't know. I think it was a good confidence builder, and definitely an awareness raiser of like, all right, getting if you want money, you need quality. In order to be quality, you need to put in the time and grind it out and do the necessary work, right? And then in that way, putting in the time, putting in the work, building projects, developing your skills, those end up making you money. So it's like it's an indirect result, but it's a result nonetheless. So
it's like a byproduct of studying hard.
Exactly. Like, it's just like the guy that wrote the Dilbert book, man. Like, if you're pursuing the result of more money, that is going to be a different path than pursuing a system and a process that will put you on a road that is ultimately going to give you more money as well. And I think that outcome is definitely more desirable than just trying to make a quick buck. You know what I mean?
I dig it. I like that.
That's basically it. That's what I got.
Yeah, La, are you still with us or?
Yes, right. I'm still here.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Did you want to share any of your like personal readings or just like takeaways, personal development stuff from the week?
Yeah, so this week I guess I'm reading the book. Oh, what is it? Clean Code, right?
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So I gotta grab it at my book bag. So yeah, I've been reading it. I'm only on chapter 2. I don't know what I thought or I expected the book to be about, but I find that it's really helpful for me. Oh, The Clean Coder. I'm reading The Clean Coder by Robert C. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know what I thought. I guess I thought it was gonna be all technical. I didn't think it would be pretty much, also just I don't know. I guess it's just relevant to me, just being a software engineer right now. So it's pretty cool. And I guess the chapter I'm on, he's talking a lot about just being passive aggressive and being professional, and how to handle issues at work. Like saying no to situations where you're being actually compromised on integrity or quality of work, and it's not going to benefit the company now. It's going to cause problems later on. How to respond in a healthy way when you're having issues with your managers. So for me, I guess it's pretty much, it's interesting that, these are some of the things that I'm experiencing now currently in my new job. So and it's talking a lot about, technical and how to be a responsible software developer when you're responding to these situations. So I think it's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, that guy actually came and talked to our company. He came in and gave like a day-long kind of like seminar or whatever, and he didn't even know, this was an eye-opening moment for me because he didn't know anything about our code base at all, but he just went through and explained like how code bases are created and what happens, and it exactly explained all of the problems with our current code base, which was kind of like made me think to myself like, oh wow, there's actually more at play here. This isn't just this one company doing this wrong or being influenced in this way. This is actually a phenomena of like software itself. Because this dude didn't know anything about us, and he was able to just exactly tell us exactly what's going on and what's happening. And like this, from his perspective, that guy's been around forever. So I mean, he's kind of seen it all. I have heard other developers talk trash about him, but normally it's that he's too idealistic, is what they would say. But normally, I don't tend to take that as a valid criticism because I'm also pretty idealistic. So his stuff kind of resonates with me because it is like the responsibility does fall on the developer at the end of the day, and if they're not adhering to a certain set of principles, then why even have processes in general,
I think it's interesting too that book, because I had a copy, and it wasn't my personal copy. I had a copy at work, and then I didn't actually get to finish reading it, but I think it's interesting that he has like soft skills and kind of like interpersonal stuff in the book, because like Clean Code is a very specific title, so it seems like, you know what I mean, that's what the one, because I read like maybe the first 4 chapters and I didn't really get any soft skills stuff, so you must be a little bit further past that, and he gets into like interpersonal stuff, which is cool.
The first chapter he talks about the being a team player. I'm in the first, saying no. That's like the first chapter, page 34.
It's been a while. I was back in like April. I haven't read it in a while. I don't have it. It was a while ago, but I remember it was just a lot of like stuff about interfaces and like naming conventions and just reasons for doing certain things. But that stuff
I ain't get there yet.
Okay. Okay.
He's got a good one. I've got a physical copy. I could try to like get it up somehow. I've got his book called Clean Architecture. It's sort of like the sequel to that one. Yeah. And it's more solid and all that kind of stuff. And it's really like this, especially if you don't have a computer science degree, it's really nice to hear it from someone that basically is OGs of software development. Yeah. Just explain where we were, where we're at, and where we're going.
Plug. That's in the curriculum on Saturday.
What you said?
Clean Architecture is in the curriculum on Saturdays.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, yep.
So I'm gonna try to find a PDF copy and share that in the Excel too, because I could use a copy myself, and then we'll get on that. So yeah, for me, I'm still kind of in between these 2 books. I know we already talked about one. Lob recommended Shoe Dog, Phil Knight found a Nike book, and then Justin's other recommendation by his boy. Still the key. I have not been reading as consistently as I should. I've been reading like maybe half a chapter a day, probably. So I haven't been knocking out whole chapters. I've been trying to get used to allocating my time to kind of account for the curriculum this week and everything. But same thing, kind of just like a lot of personal stuff, more like motivational things, looking at obstacles differently, like running into roadblocks, whether it's like what I'm going through with this C# ORM thing right now, and Justin, like how you were saying, just like stopping and pausing and thinking about like, okay, well, maybe you didn't need to go to this ORM in the first place. Maybe you should have taken a step back and understood the bare bones of like, how do these two things work together by themselves, plain Jane. Okay, now look at different options of frameworks. Which one do you like for what reason? Now learn how that works. Which ones? So like, it's just not being in such a rush to be results oriented, which has definitely been one of my things, and something I want to work on this year. So I guess I'm reading, trying to follow the kind of like entrepreneurial self development books, because I know that's a lot of my work this year is going to be like interpersonal habits and things like that, and I know that this curriculum is challenging me in that way too. Me and La talk about it, but it's like being in a rush, like same thing, being in a rush to get to an outcome. Like, it's fine to follow a tutorial or whatever, or take a course and build an app and everything, but if you don't understand exactly the ins and outs of all the configuration, how it works, why it's there, like you were just saying, it's just like it doesn't equate to much. So it's like trying to, some of the topics and things where I might have like taking a step back before, like, okay, I don't even know that. That's networking stuff, or that's server stuff, or that's like blah blah. Like, I don't even know all that. Like, does it work, or does it? You know what I mean? Like, that used to be my mindset, but now it's trying to be okay. Let me understand networking protocols. Let me understand error codes. Let me understand just all these different things, networking system or networking and operating systems, because it's like those things all translate directly into terminology, tools, everything in software development. So like, you're right, there are these databases is a career in itself, operating system is a career in itself, networking is a career in itself, servers is a career in itself, software development, DevOps, but like there's still this like intersectionality of all of it. And if you can kind of just like dip your toe in enough to be fluent in all these different things, you'll just be a lot better off and valuable like for it. So that's definitely what these books are kind of helping me do, is just slow down and take a different approach to things, not being in a rush to get my outcome, but like get the understanding, like actually get the knowledge, not just the outcome. So
yeah, process over or system over goals, dude. I was gonna tell you this. I finished the Dilbert book.
Nice.
Right? I gotta get that back. I'll get it back to you.
For sure. Yeah, we'll get it. Yeah.
So I didn't even realize that this stuff like straight up resonates with people, man. They don't even understand sometimes. Like, I was at the doctor. I went to the doctor, and it was just a checkup because I was like trying to lose some weight or whatever. So he's talking to me about losing weight, right? So I talked to him. I just said, without even thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, I set it up so I'm just building it into my routine, so I don't even have to think about it. I just went full-blown Dilbert book on this guy, and I didn't even realize I was saying it. And then it just like blew this dude's brain. He was just like, wow, that's a really good idea. Wow, where'd you hear that? I was like, yeah, I got it from this Dilbert book. He's like, what is it? And he like Googled it on the spot. He's like, I'm going to read this tonight. I'm going to go home and read this right now. I was like,
man,
yeah.
There it is, baby. Yeah. Hopefully we can do that to some of the people who are watching right now. So I want to put the book list together, share some. I mean, because for real, man, like, you just never know. Like, personally, I'm starting to only read books that I get some sort of like recommendation on. Like, if I see someone else reading it, or if they tell me about it, somebody that I respect or whatever, or if I like see something or someone mentions something in an interview I'm watching, they mention some books, like, oh, let me go look that up, blah blah. But otherwise, I'm not usually like perusing the bookstore just looking for random books to grab. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just kind of the nature of it, man. Like, because that book did a lot for me, and like Ego is the Enemy did a lot for you, and then you told me about it did a lot for me, and then like same thing with the Dilbert book. Like, so I love the sharing of knowledge and being able to reference like the things that make people who they are, man. So yeah, I think that's dope that you were able to go and connect with your doctor over something like that. Something so simple. It's like, bro, you probably had great processes in place, right? For the last like 15, 20 years of your life. You know what I mean? But hey, you just, it's all perspective. So that's good, man. So yeah, I appreciate you for being on here with me, Rod. I know La, I think, probably had to step away. But yeah, anybody who's watching, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is our first week. Forgive me again for like any of the technical difficulties with the screens and all that stuff. We're gonna get all that stuff worked out in the coming weeks. But every weekend, you guys can expect to catch us right here on Daring the Dev, the channel. I'll be putting out the events earlier in the week from now on, so you guys can know like by Monday or Tuesday what time we'll be streaming on Saturday, and everybody can kind of join in. You guys can be right here with us, and then as the curriculum picks up, we'll have more content per week. So we'll have a breakdown week by week. I'll put those together, and then yeah, guys, we look forward to just learning and growing here with y'all. If you have any questions about anything, leave it in the comment section. We'll be sure to get back with you guys. So yeah, until next time, Justin, I appreciate you, my dude. Lana, you're not with us, but I appreciate you, and thank y'all for watching. Everybody who's still here with us, and we'll catch y'all on the next stream. All right.
Right on, man. Sounds good.
All right. Peace, man.
Later.